What's happening, good people? Welcome to Wes's Watch Room. In this one, we're going to be reviewing the newish Pagani Design PD-1719. So this was kindly provided into the channel at a discount by the Pagani Design AliExpress official store. You can find a link down in the description. So as always, we're going to talk dimensions, specifications, the good, the bad, things I like, things I don't like, as well as everything else you need to know about this watch. So let's get started with those dimensions, and diameter wise we're looking at 42.6 at the narrowest point, and if you go at a slight angle it is a little bit more. 44.9 if you include the crown. The lug to lug is 45.5, so definitely smaller than it looks in the pictures. We have a 28mm lug width. It is 13.5 millimeters thick, but some of that is the crystal, but more on that in a little bit. And the crown is 6.9. Construction is 316L stainless steel throughout. I'm not sure on the bezel though, so I think that's just stainless steel, but I'm not sure whether it's 316L, as I can't find any information to confirm that. We have a domed sapphire crystal, and it does have AR. Now the AR, as you can see, is not very generously applied, but it doesn't do a bad job. I've definitely seen worse from Pagani, so it's nice that they're actually putting AR. So that is a step in the right direction. We have a screw down crown, screw down case back that gives a claimed 300 meters of water resistance, but take that with a pinch of salt. Finally, we have C3 Lume. I know, C3 on a Pagani, so keep an eye out for that in a little bit. And we have that 120 click bezel. Now this bezel is, well, it got a few questions in the unboxing, let's just say, because it's not like the T version of the watch this is homaging. It's actually based on the Pro version. Yeah, because I didn't know there's two. I thought there was just a T and that's it. But no, there is a Pro version as well. So yeah, that's news to me. But essentially this one has a similar functioning bezel, but it's just laid out a little bit differently. So according to what I've researched, it has depth and dive time. So depth is your outer, and then dive time is the inner. So anyway, let's take a look at the bezel in a little more detail. You can see we've got an orange and black circular marker, which is at the 12, and then we've got 60, 55, and right down to 20 on the outer in orange, and then a 60-minute inner in black. These are engraved and filled with paint, and the quality is not too bad. We've got a brushed finish to the surface of it, and I think everything pops quite nicely off the stainless steel. A couple of different color options available. I think there's like a Tiffany S blue, a darker blue, and I believe there's one more as well. So if you're not a fan of the orange, then there are a few other options. So let's take a listen and go with this bezel. So that's what it sounds like. As for the action, it's very, very sort of loose. I mean, you can almost sort of spin it with one finger, but it is very, very light, the action. It's smooth, very sort of noisy and ratchety though, but we have a few other issues. We do have a significant amount of backplay. We have some wobble here, we have some wobble side to side, and we have some compression movement as well. So it's definitely not the most solid feeling bezel I've ever encountered, and it's not the best I've even had from Pagani. As for alignment, it does align if you back click it, but if you actually click it into place, it does sit slightly to the left, so it's not bang on. So yeah, a little bit hit and miss on the bezel. So let's move on to that dial, and you can see we went for the orange version. This dial does have some subtle sandpaper-esque texture to it, but it's not really coarse. It's quite a fine grain texture, so it's not all that noticeable, especially to the eye. Looking at those markers, we have these applied indices. They've got a black border with a section of lume in the center. Black printed minute track, which does look a little bit dark in some lighting situations and isn't the most legible, but it all works really well in terms of design, just not for functionality. As for the branding, we've got just Pagani's shield logo, applied and high polish. Can see though in some lighting situations it goes very dark and looks black, and actually that kind of works with the rest of the black on the dial. Taking a look at the hands, and these really divided opinion, and I'm definitely siding with the people that didn't like these hands. I'm not a fan. Now, I'm not a fan of the originals hands either, to be honest, but I do prefer them over what these have used. And yeah, they're just a little bit weird, and I don't think they fit the aesthetic of this watch all that well. Now, I appreciate they've not, you know, done a one-to-one and used their own style hands, but for me, they're just not working. Text-wise, you know, we've just got two lines of text. We've got automatic and divers 300. Now, disregard the divers 300 because it's not a certified dive watch, so it should be water resistant, you know, 300. So yeah, that should definitely be changed, but you know, it probably won't. But one thing you probably have noticed, no date window inside, and that is awesome. I do appreciate that because it just looks so much cleaner and a lot more symmetrical. Taking a look at the case, it is a little bit mucky, so I'll see if I've got a cleaning cloth. I do, just give it a little wipe. So we've got very nice high polished sides, and the polishing is done to it very, very good standard. You know, it's nice and mirror, you can see the reflection quite clearly, so it's well done. We have this radial brushing which follows the curvature of the top of the case very nicely, and it's done to, you know, a good standard. You know, it's not the best, it's not the nicest I've seen, but it's good. Same at this side, but we do have a signed crown. It's just one of Pagani's typical style with their shield logo, and that's about your lot really. Case back, you know, we have another new design. We've got a little turtle motif that's blowing some bubbles underwater. It's kind of cool. Mixed finishing with this sort of porthole style surrounding it, and of course the specifications as well. It is screwed down, and I do quite like it. You know, it's a little bit different. I'm not sure what the turtle relevance is to this watch, to be fair, but you know, it's there, it's got it, and you know, it looks kind of cool. So moving on to the bracelet, and do you know what? It's a mixed bag. Let's just say, you know, I like the you know, the styling. I like the finishing, and I think, you know, what a lot of other people are you know, saying about these bracelets on these homages, not just this one, is they don't flare this link here. If you look at the original, the you know, the top link here is flared and flows nicely with the case. The homages don't do that, and I think that, you know, could be potentially, you know, a manufacturing thing, or it's just this bracelet is the one that's readily available and that's what the majority use. I don't know for certain. We do have solid end links though, which is always nice to see if my camera will focus. Solid links. Now these ones are just push pin, so they're not screw link. You know, it's fine, we can't have everything for the price point. We have a thick pressed outer shell. It's not fully milled, but it's not one of those really flimsy ones, so they've definitely beefed that up a little bit, but it's not quite milled. You know, the milled ones that are really thick and robust, it's a little bit thinner than that, but thicker than, you know, the really cheap press ones. 3 micro adjust, which is perfectly adequate. Milled scissor section, fold over, double security pusher, brush finish, and signed. The downsides of the bracelet are, you know, there's a couple of little you know, edges on the inside that's a little bit rough, but other than that, it's not too bad. I like the finishing. You know, we've got brushed and then these polished beads of rice style in the center, and it's a nice looking bracelet. Got some you know, nice flow, some nice flex. It's one of their better ones, to be fair. So yeah, quite surprising. So let's get this on wrist and I'll show you how it wears. And there it is on my 6-inch wrist. And do you know what? Even though the diameter and lug to lug is usually what I can accommodate, it looks quite big. And I'm thinking that's the styling of this case. Do you know, because of the shape of it, it just looks big. Very, very odd. Now, it does fit nicely, don't get any overhang at all. It just has a lot of wrist presence on my skinny wrist. So if you guys have got thicker wrists, I'd say it's going to look great on you. You know, if you've got wrists similar size to mine, then it'll fit, but it does look big. Bracelet wise, you know, it fits, conforms really well. It's got that good articulation, what I mentioned earlier, you know, nice fitment. I've took all the links out you can, and I'm on the first adjustment hole, so this will go down smaller if you need it to. So maybe down to 5 and potentially 3/4 if your wrist is, you know, that size. 6 inch and above, you're going to be absolutely fine though. So that is great for versatility. But as for comfort, you know, it's a really nice, comfortable watch. You know, the profile, it's a little bit flat, but my wrist is flat, so it does actually sit surprisingly well. You know, you can see, you know, the profile there. It hugs nicely. I don't get any gap apart from just there, which is where my, you know, edge of my wrist is. But I have the weirdest shaped wrists anyway, so it'll probably look better on you guys than it does me. But it's comfortable, it fits well, and you know what, the weight isn't, you know, too much of an issue either, which I forgot to list, so I'll pop that on screen and in the specs as well so you can see that. But yeah, it's definitely a nicely balanced watch. You know, it's not too top heavy, you know, the thickness isn't that much of an issue. So it is a nice wearing watch. I can't really, you know, fault it for that. So now we're going to move on to the first sort of big surprise, the movement. Now you might be thinking, well, it's probably using a Seiko, and you'd be right, but it's not the one you think. It's actually the NH38. I know, right? The NH38 in a Pagani. What is going on? But yeah, they've decided to use a NH38 instead of the usual NH35 that they use in watches like this. And I think that's great. Well, obviously this doesn't have a date window, so it doesn't need an NH35. So they've used a proper movement. What is going on? I mean, Pagani are actually, you know, doing something right. You know, they're using the correct movement for the correct dial. It's a little bit baffling, a little bit confusing, but very, very good for us because we don't have any ghost date position. Now, you'll have seen specs on screen now. It's exactly the same as the NH35 and NH36 in terms of specifications, but it just doesn't have that extra complication. So there's no, you know, ghost date. So if I unscrew the crown, which is, you know, I'm going to mention in a minute, pop it out once, and that's it. Straight, you know, straight to the time. And like every other Seiko movement we've seen, really nice and smooth, rock solid, no issues whatsoever. I am having one issue though with the crown. I think it needs a bit of cleaning on my sample. It feels a little bit graty, and it feels, you know, gritty as well. You know, when you press it back in, oh, that's my fault. Yeah, when you press it back in, it just, it's very, very, it feels coarse and feels gritty, like there's some sort of debris or something in the thread. So that is going to need cleaning, I think. I might, you know, get a bit of dental floss and, you know, see if I can clean it out, get one of those little air puffers, see if there's any micro debris, and see if that fixes it. But, you know, I'll review watches as I get them. So if they've got issues, I don't fix them until after the review. So that's why I've left it as is, but it could be an issue that is potentially fixed. I will update, you know, in the community tab on the channel and let you know if I'm able to fix the issue. It's not a deal-breaking issue, but it definitely does, you know, feel a bit meh, let's just say. So now let's talk about the Pagani's Lume. And well, I know I said in the beginning it's got C3, which is great, but yeah, as you can see, it starts off quite strong, but then it does fade quickly and it barely lasts at all. So it's a little disappointing to see. You know, it was pretty promising given, you know, the specification, but just the application is so poor. Like I said, indices start off really strong, but then fade. Those hands don't even start off strong and they fade even quicker. So yeah, Pagani have still got a lot of work to do in the Lume department. So rounding up the review, what do we think of this watch? Well, actually, it's one of their better ones. It's actually got less QC issues than a lot of other Paganis I've had. You know, the bracelet is actually really good. I like the design, the finishing is nice, the build quality for the most part is good, apart from, you know, the crown issue, and of course that bezel. Now, if they do a version 2, I'm hoping, you know, they sort this out from factory so we don't have to mess about cleaning it and give us a better bezel. And also those hands, just bolster the lume on those hands and it'll be brilliant, because if you look at the price point, which is on screen, it is a lot cheaper than the two alternatives. So if they got those things right, I think it could be a very good contender. At the minute, it just falls a little bit short compared to what I've seen with those, but it definitely is a step in the right direction. It still needs a little bit of refinement though. What do you guys think? Thanks for watching and have a good one. If you want to see more content on the channel, click the links you can see right now. Like the video if you enjoyed it, hit that bell so you don't miss any future content, and of course feel free to subscribe if you want to stay in touch with the channel. Thanks very much. Have a good one.